Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the Gazelle podcast. This is our special BIBA edition, and we're joined today by some insurance celebrities, I think it's fair to say. So, gentlemen to my left, perhaps you could introduce yourself to the audience.
Yeah, thanks for the invite, Gary. I'm Neil Lyons. I'm the Regional Underwriting Manager for Newline Group in the UK.
Excellent.
Thank you for inviting me, Gary. Very kind of you. My name is Graeme Flynn, and I am the Managing Director of Motor at Citynet.
I'm not going to thank you yet. Tim James, CEO of Phoenix Speciality Construction MGA.
Excellent. And just for our audience, before we do start this, Tim has got his phone out because he's waiting for some tickets. He's in a queue at the minute, aren't you? So if he has to jump on that, we all know why. Multitasking, we call it. So, gentlemen, we're at BIBA. We are currently downstairs in the Havana Bar in the Revolution de Cuba, which is a bit of a hot spot for BIBA, well known to most of us of different events. Gents, I'm just interested, I think, in the first instance, we've touched on what BIBA is to our industry, and people that watch this podcast aren't just from our industry, so it'd be really good just for you guys to give us your take on, what the event is for you, why you're here, and what you expect to get out of the next couple of days.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely a great event. I've been every year that it's been in Manchester. I mean, where else can you get 10,000 insurance professionals, in the same place over a 2-day period? And that's what it's all about for us. It gives us the opportunity to see all our key partners and supporting brokers, where ordinarily it'd be very difficult, just because everybody's here.
Yeah. In this bar.
Yeah.
Currently upstairs. Flynn?
Yeah, to echo Neil's words, really, the fact that you get an opportunity to see so many people in one place, normally, it's several trips to go and see all those individuals, the fact that everyone converges, and I think probably the best thing they ever did was they used to alternate it between London and Manchester, didn't they? And I think when it was in London, people could take it or leave it. Yeah. The best decision they made was doing it annually at Manchester, and everyone converges on it. And so for 48 hours, you get an opportunity to spread yourself very thin. So
you do indeed. But you guys have quite a unique, well, maybe not as unique as it used to be, take on how you manage BIBA. You don't have a stand, do you?
No, we used to. But we decided to go down the route of hiring a bar, not because we're all functioning alcoholics, of course. More about our customer base. No, it's a bit more informal, and we just found that was a better way, and people can come and go, nip in for half hour, a bit more sociable, a bit more relaxed. So, by the way, I mean, there's lots of benefits to doing the stand. I think it's business specific though, whether you should have a stand in BIBA or do something outside. I think as a wholesale broker, because we're perhaps not quite, we're not canvassing the masses. It's more about getting into our retail brokers, whether they're existing or new, and that seems to work better for us.
Yeah, definitely. And you, Tim?
Same as the guys have said. I mean, it's connections, right? I mean, you come to BIBA to connect. We're slightly different in our journey at the moment. So we're a relatively young business. We're 18 months trading, nearly 2 years. And it's about brand awareness. It's about getting our product out. We do have a stand, and it's around just connecting existing and new. To your point, it's where you're going to find so many people in the same spot that are actually interested in your product, your service, and your capability. So, simple as that, really.
Yeah, so it's a tough one, isn't it? I've been on both sides, been an insurer and a broker and a wholesaler at this event. And I think one of the things you're always asked as a sales team is about what's your return on this? What's your return on, how do you measure the return on BIBA? I think it's just we're not going to do this in order all the time. Just an open question, really, to you guys. How do you measure that? How do you measure that you've had a successful event for a couple of days at BIBA?
Well, that's an ongoing conversation. I mean, when we work together, we had the same conversations, right? Some of it's difficult to quantify because it is brand awareness. It's the non-tangible of being involved, being in the market, actually participating in the UK's largest conference and being seen. It's very difficult to actually assign revenue to what you achieve from the conference. We do have some objectives for the team over the next couple of days, which is around, growing our customer base and growing our profile out in the market. We will try and track revenue that attaches to the conference, but it's those softer bits that you're really looking at, and it's brand awareness. You're building a business, you're building a brand, so sometimes it's not the tangible stuff that you can track.
Yeah, and I understand. And I think, we're almost in danger here of working on a pretty standard, nice, professional podcast. So tell me some stories, guys. Tell me some BIBA stories. So let's have a bit of fun here. So anything you can share?
Everything I've got to take my grade, I'm afraid. So I'll let Neil and Tim share their story.
Yeah, you go, Neil.
Thanks for looking my way.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think okay, fair enough. So
I mean, I do have some stories.
yeah,
However, legally,
no, you can't share those.
No,
so
no.
yeah, no, I think.
And anybody that's watching this, they also know that they're in those stories, and they also know legally I can tell those
They're
stories.
really hoping that question remains unanswered.
Yeah.
To be fair, I might be in a few of those stories, so I'll probably move on from there. But I was
Going back to your previous question though, Gary, is how do you work out, whether there's been any tangible benefit to being here? I mean, for us, we've got meetings constant, with our partners that are here, and it creates opportunities. And I think it's what opportunities actually come out of those face-to-face meetings, and then we can make it tangible then, with the business flow that comes through that. And there will be opportunities that come up, over the next 2 days, which you might not ordinarily have had the chance to participate on.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. I think you can probably link back quite a lot of conversations that started at BIBA, so whether or not physically there's an amount of cash that changed hands because of it, but actually when you put enough good people together in a room like this, or rooms, or whether it's in the actual conference hall itself, and we have spoken to a few people that probably won't even spend any time in the conference hall the next couple of days, or whether it's in a bar, whether it's at an event that you've got to, but it's that whole thing of getting everybody together. And I think in those chats, in those meetings, there's a lot of things that you can track back and think, well, actually, it was BIBA that started that process.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Most definitely.
Cool. Right. So moving on from BIBA, I think one of the themes that we have in these podcasts, and I'm really interested, this is the first time that we've done this to sort of come out of just the Gazelle guys in the early podcast talking, we don't want to make them all samey, but I think we are really interested in insurance as a career. We're talking to a lot of young people around, developing the opportunity in the industry and trying to make it sound as exciting as it is. I'm not sure we can make it sound as exciting as it is because, again, you can't tell most of the stories. But I'm interested in your take on it. What brought you into insurance? What keeps you in insurance? And don't just say the cash. What keeps you in insurance? What motivates you still? You've all achieved quite a lot in the market. What is it that sort of gets you out of bed still in the morning? Why is it the same reason that you came into insurance in the first place?
I think that's an easy question for me to answer. I've been in the insurance market now. This will be my 36th year, and I've sat on every side of the market other than reinsurance. And I think what keeps me motivated now, 36 years on, is I'm quite lucky. I work for a culturally very enriched company. Their guiding principles and their goals align very much with what I'm about personally. We're very much empowered to do our job, and that makes my life easier, and it makes it easier to push my team on and empower them.
Yeah, and to echo that with you guys, it also makes it easier in terms of being a customer of that as well, being able to engage with a business like that, I've got to say. Good stuff. Gents?
Yeah, I think for me, I think to echo Neil's words again, about the autonomy I think we're given where we work in particular. I mean, I've been at Citynet for 10 years now. Obviously, look, we're owned by the PIB group, but we've always been left alone. The brand's been left alone. It's like, you're good at what you do, just crack on with it. And I think that element of being allowed to, being trusted to do, you've proven you can do your job, just go and do it. And, here's the rope, either hang yourself or don't. And there's a lot to be said for that, though, because we do live in a world where, a lot of people are handcuffed. And I consider myself fortunate that at Citynet we're allowed to be entrepreneurial and go and try and make things happen based on what you've experienced and in the relationships you've got.
Cool. Can you remember Tim all those years ago? There was a little boy in Bristol.
I do. I do. Little boy blue. I think, like a lot of people, I fell into insurance. Left school, wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. Probably still not sure what I want to do. Not grown up yet. And at the time, Bristol was a huge financial services centre, so there was a lot of insurance companies and brokers, etc. And I took a job with Cornhill, and Would I have thought at 17 that I'd be doing the role I'm doing now? Not in a million years. But that's insurance, right?
Yeah.
Because insurance provides opportunities that you just, if you're a school leaver now, you won't know what insurance is. The only time you touch or you would have heard about insurance would be if you're trying to sort out your car insurance or your parents are talking about, house insurance and stuff like that. The whole industry is so huge, so complex, so multi-layered, so dynamic, and it is dynamic.
Yeah.
And the opportunities, if you can get into it, as we've all done, we've taken the opportunities that have come in front of us, and sometimes they work out and sometimes they don't. But that's what's interesting, right? And then to take those opportunities and do something with it. I mean, this industry has been fantastic to me. Yeah. I'm, as you guys know, I'm not an educated man in any shape or form. But this industry has taken me around the world. I've been able to build businesses, build teams, and I think that's, for me, that's the bit that I enjoy. That's the bit that gets me out of bed in the morning is building a business and building something from scratch and all the challenges that come with it, because none of it's easy. But to be able to, like I said, so, to be able to go into the conference hall and see a stand of a business that, 18 months ago didn't exist.
Yeah.
And knowing that there's businesses out there that are being insured by Phoenix Specialty, that's a huge buzz. That's a huge buzz. So back to my original point, it's an amazing industry if you can get into it.
Yeah.
And it's easy to get into it, really. The barrier to entry is really, really low.
Yeah,
Because we train people once you're in.
The crazy part of that is we all know that, right? We all know that it's an industry. I mean, you guys know that my kids work in insurance. I'm going to work for one of you guys very soon. So, for them, it was pretty easy because there's a pathway because, the dad talks about it. They go for a beer with the CEO. So it's kind of easy to understand that, there's a world out there. But if you're not from that environment, when I was growing up in a coal mining community, I didn't know that insurance really was a career kind of thing. I think, if there's any advice that you could give that 18-year-old Tim or that 16-year-old 6'5" Flynny, what advice would you give them now?
Take every opportunity. Just get involved.
Yeah.
Just get. There's some fantastic platforms on social media that help and bring new talent into the market. And I think the one thing I'd say to anybody is talk to people, meet people, ask questions.
Yeah.
Because what you're going to find within the insurance industry is that no one's going to tell you that they're not going to, no one's going to ignore you. No one's going to dismiss you because you're asking a question. And we all know that within the industry, there's a lot of, as you said, so your kids are in the industry. My son's just about to come into the industry. Just ask the questions, just get involved. And just don't be shy of taking an opportunity. Whatever you think it is, it's going to be something that will take you in a direction that perhaps you never knew it existed. So just get involved.
Cool, good stuff. So, I mean, a last bit on this point, I think, again, just that's all great when you know what you're doing, but, is there an obvious, and if somebody wanted to come work at Newline or Citynet, I mean, is it as easy as it used to be? You guys, how do you bring in and nurture young talent in your businesses?
Yeah, I mean, interesting question, Gary. I don't think a lot has changed over the years, and I think certainly going into the OOs, I think in the insurance market, debatable. My view is I think we've got a little bit of a skills gap because when the technology side and businesses, from a technology perspective, we're developing. We all started getting smartphones. The kids were getting used to using them, and it was an interesting line of business to look into to work. Let's get involved in a technology business, rather than insurance. And go back to your point, I was the same. I fell into insurance rather than picked it as an occupation, and I'm forever grateful, for actually doing that. It's been very good for me. But I think the insurance company side, I think, has been better than brokers. I've worked on all sides, as you know. We have the graduate programs,
Yeah.
which is a massive help in getting kids, trained up and into the market. And I think that has to continue. I think we need to do more from that side for sure.
Yeah. So where does, talking about sort of technology and future and all those things there that came into that answer, where does the industry go from here? So we all know, right, we've worked in insurance and our processes are pretty archaic or have been, systems and technology hasn't necessarily caught up to other industries. And I think that might have been a challenge for bringing in young people because they don't necessarily see, that sort of as a tech industry or anything else. But, people keep talking about AI, and again, it's a theme of some of our podcasts and new technology. Do you see, Flynn, you work obviously in the motor market in the city. Is AI ever going to creep into that and make a change? Is technology making a difference the way things are done in your business?
Well, I think it's a slow burn at the moment, but you can see it's coming. Yeah. And I think it's about using AI as some. AI is never going to take over the human element of the business. It's about using AI so it makes the human bit easier, and you can upskill people. So AI's got a place where, maybe the more mundane stuff, the data processing can be done. And then the idea is, though, you can then upskill and get people doing the more interesting part of the job. So it's how AI can work alongside the human element. Because reality is, I know we live in a world where, we've got algorithms, etc., which are driving pricing. But on big commercial risks, you still need a human set of eyes on something. You can't, not everything can be run by a computer. Not everything is pure data. You do need the data you need to dive into the data. So it's about using AI to our advantage and making everything we do better and giving a better, at the end of the day, it's about providing a better end service for the customer, isn't it? So that's where I see it heading. And I think it'll be a positive thing within the insurance industry, I believe.
Yeah.
I mean, to echo that point, I know everybody sat in this room, we're a service-led proposition, and AI is certainly going to assist, like has been mentioned, with, improving the process and ensuring that you're still coming out with that top service level. But like you say, AI cannot change an insurer, a broker, and a policyholder working together in a tripartite relationship for risk management, and also deciding what the risk transfer is going to be. AI cannot replace that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I totally agree. I think one of the themes and the conversations that we're having a lot is that AI, to your point, Flynn, AI is a tool I don't think any of us really understand yet. We're all doing little models of ourselves and posting them out on social media and those kind of things, right?
Some of us are, Gary. True. Jumped on that bandwagon quickly, didn't you?
Yeah. Some of us have got proper jobs.
Yeah. Never miss an opportunity from a branding perspective. Fair enough. Okay, yeah, touche, Flynn. But I think, are we using it? We're using it as a broker, right? So we use AI. It's helped us sort of develop some of our material, literature, those kind of things, help us develop some of our artwork and creatives and all those kind of things that you'd expect, which is great, but I think that's not what it's all about, right? So my daughter is telling me, and Holly looks after our social media, she's telling me that, Dad, you need to really start to think about this because, we shout about we're the broker with the podcast right now, or we're the broker with AI, embracing that technology ahead of others. And I can see bigger businesses using it. And my fear, having been to a couple of major insurers sort of conferences and that, they've talked about AI managing the underwriting process or the claims process. And I think from a data gathering perspective, brilliant, right? So it can go off and search loads of different places at once and all that, fantastic. But then to be making decisions or recommendations or those kind of things scares the shit out of me, if I'm honest. I think, and the point of it then starting to kind of impact the customer element of the journey, I think is a real thing. I think there are some businesses, and I understand if you manage things to a significant scale, then you're always looking for efficiencies and things. But it is a bit of a fear from my side that businesses might be doing that. You've set up a business 18 months ago, Tim, you're saying there, and part of a bigger group. Is it something that, when you're building the most modern business out there almost, you just started, is it something that you built into your business or you built your thinking?
To your point, it's all about efficiency, right? So there's aspect, so, as you say, so we're part of a bigger group. So we're part of we've got a sister business, we're part of a business called Akius, which is an MGU. And within that business, we're always looking at what ways can we use, let's call it technology, right? How can we use technology to help us be a more proficient service-led proposition? AI is part of that, so we've got a big project ongoing through our CTO around how do we embrace AI to a point that we don't lose that personal touch, but we're providing a service-led proposition which is relevant. I've seen it with brokers and clients that we deal with, where I've received emails back which are clearly driven out of whether it's ChatGPT or whatever it may be.
It's good though, isn't it? Because you actually you know it must be that because it's so in detail, so in depth.
Yeah.
You don't do insurance. How do you know any of that? I don't know that.
So thank you very much for answering every single point. But you have to be, with these things, you have to be careful because, to your point, the information you can pull out of these things are amazing, right? So if you want to do research on a modular construction within the UK market, it will provide you with a comprehensive review of what that marketplace looks like. But you've got, as with any research, you've got to make sure you've got the sources, and then you have to just double check it because that information may not necessarily be right at that point in time because it could be 3 years old. But the ability to use AI to improve bringing information from a presentation from a broker into your back office system to remove the tedium of process for any business, that's just what you're going to be looking at, right? But it's early days, and if we don't adopt it or if we don't embrace it and at least explore it, then you're one of the businesses that are on the back foot. And there's a lot of, I'm sure within the hall today, there's a lot of conversations around AI and what the future looks like and how much, millions being spent on insurers and how they can, claims process or, bordereaux, all that. Yeah, but you've got to be in it. If you're not in it, you're not going to win it.
Yeah, I think that's the fear, isn't it? Is other people do embrace it and start to do things different, better, whatever, and services sort of run off down a path down there that we can't then keep up with if you're not looking at it. So I think even as a pretty traditional broking type business, we are absolutely looking at how we can adopt and bring the process and what AI can give us as a business. But yeah, I don't think any of us really know them, and certainly probably not the most educated people in the idea rights we have in this conversation. But it's just fair enough, Tim. Yeah, sorry, Matt. So AI aside, just thinking about the industry, the marketplace right now, we all work in sort of slightly different parts, but cover a lot of similar areas as well. So, what do you think? What sort of changes do you see, or improvements, or what's your sort of forecast for the market for insurance the next sort of 3 to 5 years?
Oh, that's one for you now.
Oh, thanks.
That's absolutely one for you.
Not educated on that subject, so no.
Neil, otherwise known as Mystic Meg.
Thanks, mate.
Write this down, everybody.
Whatever Neil says.
No, I mean, there's certainly going to be a lot of challenges. Certainly over the next 3 years. We're supposed to be. We always say that we're self-sufficient in the insurance market, but we're not. We know it's cyclical. We know we go through soft and hard markets, or harder markets, in certain lines of business at different times. So it's very cyclical, the market. And at the moment, for me, there's too much capacity out there. And the problem with too much capacity, we have a soft market and it drives rates down to an unsustainable level. And all that's doing is storing up problems for further down the line, which will be in 3 to 5 years' time. And there might be some difficult conversations to be had, if you follow that route. Yeah. We're all about sustainable rating. So, our premium, moves with the market. We're likely to go backwards, in a softer market because we don't chase business when the rates aren't sustainable. We don't want to store up issues for you as the broker with the client, further down the line.
Yeah. Gents, thank you.
What you said.
It's definitely a softer market across the piece at the moment, isn't it? But Neil said, everything's cyclical.
Yeah.
We've been through soft and hard markets.
Yeah,
We're just in that part of the cycle. It'll recover. From an underwriting point of view, it's probably holding your nerve, sticking to your principles, waiting for it to pass, and then you're there for when it booms again.
Yeah, so
whereas then the ones that have gone chasing it will go by the wayside because their loss ratios won't be able to stomach it continuing. So obviously from the broker's perspective, we have to follow the market. We've got no choice. There's a market out there that's 50% cheaper. If we don't go and access them, then someone else will. So what we want to support our underwriters, and that's always support our existing markets, support our renewal market, etc. But unfortunately, if it's going to move, it's our job to we've got to move with it. So as a broker, you have to be a little bit more malleable in that respect and just accept it is what it is.
You have, and I think the challenge we then obviously have is the client. If the client can go to another broker and get it from that other market at 50%, then explaining away. And I think what we have, I think, the balance you have to strike as a broker is having good enough relationships with your clients that they understand the market cycle, they understand why they're with certain markets and that they're with a sustainable market. But then, people have economic challenges and things out there right now that everyone just wants the insurance as cheap as possible. So it is a tough one. I think, look back 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, COVID, etc. Who'd have thought that we'd be in a softish PI market a few years later on the back of that? It's crazy, right? But but things have gone up and down. But it is a balancing act, and I think as brokers we have a job to represent our insurers and our clients and just try and get that balance right across the piece. And I think generally good brokers hopefully do that.
And Gazelle.
That'll be cut. Thank you, Tim.
That's all right.
So just talking about brokers for a second, and something I'm really fascinated by. So, you guys know my story, my journey. I've one of those that have exited big businesses and come and set up my own business and Gazelle, and we're doing all right. We're doing all right in this market. I think we're a growing team and all that good stuff. But there's apologies, guys. There's a lot of ice getting moved around out there. So the broker market, as we see it now, is driven predominantly by consolidation. There's been tons of consolidation the last few years. Simple answer is that a good thing or a bad thing for you guys as insurers, as wholesalers?
Opportunity, right? So consolidation is a challenge for any provider because it's down to relationships, and suddenly you could have a key relationship gets acquired by an entity that perhaps you don't deal with or you don't have a strong relationship with. However, what it also provides, and to your point, new startups. And that's essential for this industry. So whether it's MGAs, whether it's brokers, even insurers, new entrants into the market. And I absolutely get your point, Neil, around, there's a lot of capacity and it there's a reaction to that. But the consolidation provides opportunities for entrepreneurial brokers to step out on their own. And throughout my career, I've always supported those brokers because that's, especially for an MGA, or if you're a specialist underwriter, then that you want to deal with those people that have got those clients that follow them, sticky clients. They know their sector, they know their specialism. That's brilliant for an underwriter because that's the brokers you want to deal with. There's always room for a generalist, but I don't think there's any generalists around this table.
No.
No,
I think you raise a really good point, and one that's obviously close to our heart is around those new startups and that. I think probably historical arrogance of a number of certainly the bigger insurers out there that would, a new startup, you ain't got a £2 million account, we're not interested, we'll stick you in some centre somewhere and look at you again in a couple of years. I think, our experience and our journey so far has been we're placing way more business with MGAs, wholesalers, niche specialty markets, because they're supporting us. So, they don't look at it as, you guys don't look at it as, well, actually, you haven't got an X £1 million account. They're backing the people that are building that account. They say clients will come and new business, et cetera, et cetera. But I think that entrepreneurialism is getting supported by good markets. And I think there's a reason that, with respect, we sat here with you guys and the brands that you represent around the table, and not some of the real big boys out there in the market that perhaps we're not sat here with right now because they don't even know we exist almost. And I think which is a shame, but I'm just interested in your views really on it, guys. And I don't know, Flynn, you obviously work within a group that's a big consolidating group and that. But what's it like on the other side of the fence, sort of working in that environment? Are you driven towards looking after those brokers in a different way to the rest of the market? You talk about autonomy in your business. Is that maintained?
Yeah, I don't think the way we deal with our customer base has changed since I joined 10 years ago when we were an independent with 50, probably less than 50 employees. It's exactly the same proposition. We're owned by a group, but they purchased us because we had a good business, and fair play to them. They've just said, carry on doing what you're doing. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Yeah. So nothing has changed. Yeah. Even the name over the door hasn't changed because we haven't been rebranded. All we've done is grown. Yeah. We've become a bigger proposition. We control a lot more revenue than we used to, so we are able to pull a little bit more than we would. Obviously, when you've got the critical mass, you can play a little bit more and you can lean on people a bit more. But in the essence of getting the deal done is exactly the same as when we were sub 50 people. Yeah. We are the same business, just bigger.
Yeah. Cool. Right, guys, last couple of questions, because I know you've all got an exciting day at BIBA ahead and the bar's open. So this is, Flynn, I know you've done another podcast, but not necessarily in the insurance space. You can rant about that separately. We'll have a chat about that in the bar. Guys, I guess it's your first podcast. I'm not sure what you're doing in terms of embracing social media, but what's your thoughts on that? What's your thoughts on where you're making a big play right now and enjoying social media? It helps from a brand perspective, but actually helps us have some great conversations that I think are really useful for insurance people, but non-insurance people to see as well. What's your thoughts on social media and podcasting, etc. in the market? Do you see a place where you're here? So I guess you see some sort of place for it.
Yeah, I find it very interesting, and I think go back to a point in which we were looking at earlier, which was bringing people, into the insurance market.
Yeah.
If you're sending out podcasts and using social media to say what's going on in the insurance market, it's going to make it more interesting for people. They're going to start to look at insurance as a career.
Yeah.
And social media is huge, and I think it should be used more from that perspective, for sure.
Well, you're appealing to the next generation, aren't you? That's how they digest their news. Yeah. Their generation was different. People don't buy newspapers anymore, do they? They scroll through social media, and that's how they find out about current affairs. They don't pick up a newspaper and read it from back to front. So you've got to change with the times. People want to listen to a podcast, want to watch a podcast. They want to watch something on TikTok or YouTube. We were brought up where we had 4 channels to choose from, and that was pretty much that was your social media, wasn't it? But the world's moved. People, some little kids, they don't watch.
Graeme, it was 3 channels.
It was just BBC One, wasn't it, when you were born?
No swearing.
But if you want to reach out to the next generation, that's how they digest. A lot of them don't even watch traditional TV anymore, do they? They stream everything. So it's the future. It is where it is now. That is how people watch and listen to things. I think you're doing a wonderful thing, Gary.
God bless you, Graeme. Yeah. Tim, the future.
The future's bright. Those lights are bright.
They're very bright.
Social media is a must-have, right? It's table stakes. Both the guys have said it. If you want to grow the awareness of your business, your brand, your capability, social media it's a must-have. I think as an industry, we do struggle with social media and how to access it. I think we do, but that's not a reason to ignore it. So, it's a must-have, and you see some businesses that are very good at it. But I think with social media, it's consistency. Yeah. So what you've started is great, but you can't stop it now.
Yeah, well, it's the future, right? As you say, it's perhaps a career as an influencer one day.
Beats selling policies, doesn't it?
No, to be clear, we do that as well, right? We do that as well, but...
That's good.
Right, so last question, and just for that, Flynn, I'm going to go with you first on this. What do you want your legacy to be in the insurance industry?
Well, you really have made me pay for that comment, haven't you? I'd just like to be very well liked and respected by everybody. Thanks.
It's got to be real.
I'd like everyone to come to our funeral.
It's a free bar now.
I'm pretty sure it will be. Tim?
My legacy.
Yeah.
Whew. That's a really.
That's an unfair curveball, isn't it? Yeah.
That wasn't on the itinerary you set out either.
I said there might be a curveball or two at the end.
Legacy. I've been involved in numerous businesses, big and small, and startups and well established. To have a legacy where, a bit to your point, Flinny, really, it's the people that I've worked for, or part of my team, and the legacy to be able to leave behind. Gee, this is deep. But to help people on their journey and to have an influence in any shape or form in moving people's careers, or even personally, because it's a very social business that we work in. So the legacy for me is to leave behind, that's just a shit question.
That's a swear word. That's the first swear word.
Neil, you've had a chance to think about it. Maybe we get a little bit deeper here. Oh, no, we're not edit out.
I'm sure we're not, but it's such a difficult question to answer.
Well, that's why I asked it. Yeah.
And obviously, I've been doing this for a long time now, as you know. But it's always been about relationships for me. And I've dealt with people, from year dot that I've not seen for 10 years, and then all of a sudden I'll start to deal with them again. I'm not saying that's a legacy thing, but I think it's probably a relationship thing, and I hope that I put my mark on the market, and people have looked up to what I've done over that career.
Definitely. I think, look, it was a bit of an unfair question, but I won't apologise. But I think for me, seriously, the point of that is that there is a legacy. I mean, I've obviously worked with and for a couple of you guys, and worked with all of you in some capacity, and you've made a difference either through development opportunities for me personally. I've seen that with other people in the team, and the industry, and also the sort of support that you give to the brokers out there. So look, we only have big hitters on our podcast, so you've all made a difference to the industry. So thank you all for that.
Well, so now I
Very
can
much
answer.
for the invite.
So I'll answer the question then.
Oh, he's had to think about it.
Here we go.
And it's a conversation, and it's something that we've discussed within our business. So, as a startup, and it was a startup. We're not now. The legacy is that we want, in 10 years' time, a business where people are engaged, they're running the business, they're involved in it, they are supporting their families from a business that was started in 2024, and on our shoulders, that business grows, and the people involved in that business. We won't be if I'm still involved in 10 years' time, brilliant. But to actually step away and know that you made a decision, or you were involved in a business,
A successful business.
business that has then created value, not just monetary, but value for people that are involved. That's a legacy. And as part of the wider group that Phoenix is part of, that's very much something that we're keen to do. We're not private equity backed, and we're very focused on, we want to create a legacy that people come in and get involved in, and then are a part of, and then they feel embraced and empowered to grow a business. That's a legacy, to be able to step away from that and go, you know what, we made a decision, it was tough. Those people were, in 10, they would love to be in a position in 10 years' time, somebody joins Phoenix, they won't know what it took to get the business off the ground.
Yeah.
They don't need to know, right? But to have that quiet moment with a cup of coffee and go, right.
Well, that is your legacy, the fact that someone joins in 10 years' time not knowing the hardship that's gone to get to that point. So that is most definitely a legacy, isn't it?
Yeah. So, and what, and again, back to your original point about the industry and coming into the industry, there are no barriers for anybody being entrepreneurial within the insurance industry. If you want to set up an insurance broker, you have to have the relevant experience, but we're seeing people late 20s, and we're seeing people, in the autumn of their career, not talking about you, Gary.
That's just his hair.
You were doing so well for me. Yeah.
So, yeah, legacy.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah,
Brilliant. I think, no, that's a great answer. I think, yeah, it wasn't even meant to be that serious a question, but I think that generally
No, it was a serious question.
really good answer, but put you on the spot there. But guys, I think that's a really good place to wrap up. Really genuinely do appreciate you guys being on the sort of first going outside of Gazelle podcast, and yeah, I hope you all have a great BIBA. But Tim, Graeme and Neil, thank you very much for being guests on. That's been a Gazelle podcast. Thank you.